Hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to you all. Welcome to the 10th AISSR Harvest Day. I'm Justus Uitermark. I'm the Academic Director of the Amsterdam Institute for Social Science Research, and I'll be your host for today. Many of you will not have attended a Harvest Day before, and I'm expecting that quite a few of you, especially our students, will be unfamiliar with the AISSR. So a warm welcome to you. If I would have to explain the AISSR in one sentence, I would say it's the institutional expression of our commitment to interdisciplinary exchange. Of course, much of the work we do is and should be specialized and rooted in disciplinary frameworks. But more so than in most other places, social scientists at the University of Amsterdam collaborate and converse across disciplinary boundaries. There are also many people here who attended one or more of the 9 previous Harvest Days. A warm welcome to you too. To you, I should explain how this year's edition is different. The format of the past 9 Harvest Days was that AISSR researchers present the fruits of their scholarly labor of the preceding year. And I've come to deeply appreciate this format for how it disrupts the peculiar temporality that governs academic life. There are usually many years between the conception of an idea and its publication in print. As a result, by the time a piece is published, we have often already moved on to the next paper, the next proposal. The Harvest Day was meant to pause and reflect on our findings and insights. So instead of presenting what we were planning to do, we discussed and celebrated what we had done. This anniversary edition is also meant to pause and reflect. But the format and purpose are slightly different. Our theme for today is looking back, looking forward. The purpose is to reflect on the social sciences in general and the social sciences practiced at UVA in particular. We want to step back from the daily routine of everyday academic life to take stock of long-term developments and reflect on our mission as social scientists. I'm aware that doing so, stepping back and reflecting on long-term trends, is challenging and may even feel like a distraction in the present moment. I'm speaking, of course, of the war in Gaza, which I know has directly affected many of you. Although the war imposes an acute sense of urgency, some of the questions it confronts us with are perennial. These are questions about our positionality, our commitments, and our roles in understanding and shaping social change. We'll be addressing such questions today. The purpose of this anniversary tradition is to look back, not just to last year, but to the last decades. And we do so not to reminisce, but to look forward, to chart new avenues of inquiry. We'll probe the fundamental questions that lie ahead and the approaches, methods, and data that we need to answer them. And even though this may be difficult under present conditions, this will also involve an effort to explore more appealing and just futures, both for the social sciences and societies at large. We're going to discuss these questions in relation to 3 research themes that are crucial for the AISSR, which I have in broad terms described as intersectionality and social justice, climate change and democratization, and computational and digital research. Of course, these are not disparate fields of research. We only discuss them separately for practical reasons. For each of these fields, we ask 3 questions. First, how is the world changing? Second, how should social sciences change? And third, how may the social sciences contribute to changing the world? We have invited keynote speakers to help us address these themes and questions. The speakers will each present for about 20 minutes, and afterwards they'll engage in an unmoderated conversation with an AISSR researcher. And I should say something about the setup of this conversation. The interlocutors are not discussants who will provide commentary from behind this cathedra, but conversation partners who will ask questions and add their perspectives. 2 comfortable chairs, and of course, a carpet and some plants. have been put in place to create the setup for an easygoing and inspiring dialogue. After the keynotes and conversations, many of you will participate in the workshops later this afternoon. In the workshops, you're invited to actively participate. As in the plenary program, we'll be centrally concerned with the 3 questions I posed earlier. I'm hoping that the workshops will serve several purposes. They should be inspirational. I'm hoping that you'll find people with similar interests but different perspectives, and that you'll have interesting conversations and perhaps even explore collaborations. The workshops will also help the AISSR and its affiliated research centers to identify priorities and opportunities. We'll build on the workshop conversations as we develop our agenda moving forward. Now, let me announce our first speaker, Philomena Essed, Professor of Critical Race, Gender and Leadership Studies at Antioch University. If you would look up Professor Essed's dissertation in the repository of the University of Amsterdam, you would see that she's listed as a PhD of the AISSR. In fact, she did her research at one of AISSR's predecessors, the Center for Ethnic and Racial Studies, or CRES for short. The CRES was an extremely influential center that pioneered anti-racist research, with Professor Essed's monograph, Everyday Racism, as a landmark contribution. Anti-racist research suffered a major blow when the CRES was dissolved, and I imagine this must have affected you personally. Considering this history, I'm particularly grateful that you accepted our invitation. In light of today's theme of looking back, looking forward, I felt it would be most valuable to hear you reflect on anti-racist research here at the University of Amsterdam and beyond. As many of our researchers and students have been turning to anti-racist, feminist, decolonial and intersectional approaches, I believe we can benefit tremendously from your wisdom. Although you will look back, you just said that you mostly wanted to look forward. You will speak specifically on tackling oppressive structures as routes toward self-transformation, increased care for others, a more harmonious relationship with nature, and the betterment of organizations and communities in which we live. After the lecture, Professor Essed will have a conversation with Maggie Leung, Professor of International Development Studies at our institute. Professor Leung has examined how her field, international development, has been shaped by colonial assumptions as well as racial and development hierarchies. Just as Professor Essed, much of her work explores the potential of epistemologies and practices rooted in emancipatory assumptions and commitment. I much look forward to your lecture and conversation.